South Africa in possession for the start of the second test and looking for improvement across all thirds. Early contact against Rebecca Sanders, and with Jordan and Jonker up front looking a little different. They haven't got that lofty target of Gumedi to go to. Bronwyn Spear from New Zealand, Heather Gledall from England in control of this match. The three international umpires on the tour. Oh, great hands from Illich. And Chocolate on to Neil, and a different looking forward line, Annie, with McMahon and Neil. I think Sinner Neil might enjoy playing alongside Sherelle McMahon. Who wouldn't?
Absolutely, who wouldn't? That's the comment. And Jill McIntosh determined to expose all players to this series. It's important she does, but she's taken a different tack with this. In the first test, she put the experience out early. Then when she made the changes, she threw all the babies on to see how they'd run. What she's doing, obviously, now is mixing youth with experience to try and blend some new combinations. So smart tactics from the Australian coach.
So Neil and McMahon successful with their first attempts. McMahon with an international average of 81%, and that's exactly what she shot in Brisbane.
And that's exactly what we didn't see in Brisbane. A beautiful delivery to Jordan then from VM, and a few more of those would lift the confidence of the South African outfit no end.
Well, it barely touched the hands of Sanders before it found McMahon, and that is a sweet shot. And the Australians are not backing off for 1 second. Neil.
You talk about the changed combination for Australia. I think it's important to see Natasha Chocolate in this mix. She now teams up with Beck Sanders, arguably the best centre in the country, and it gives her another chance to really develop her game at wing attack, bearing in mind she's come from wing defence.
And Harvey Williams able to withdraw the hands from that, and let's see it go out the back for Australian possession. It's a good rebound at the other end from Senecal. Alicia Senecal playing her 13th test. She and Nzama coming to Adelaide after the withdrawal of Tanya Pelcher and Bronwyn Bock through injury. That's a loose one.
In fairness to South Africa, those two withdrawals
there. Sorry.
Really affected their lineup. It made significant differences. It meant they had to move a player forward that wasn't normally there, then a wing defence into centre. So it really shuffled the pack for South Africa, and once again they're just trying to find some sort of cohesion.
Harvey Williams looking for a big night. Plenty of intercepts, plenty of drives up through the middle third as Neil sends Australia to a 4-0 start.
Sinner was a little slow to starting goals when she came on at half-time, but she built well across the second half of the match. She ended up at 76%. I think she'd love to nudge that into the 80s in test number 2.
I think the coach would love it too as well. And Australia scoring the first 5 goals of the match. Ominous signs. This is the first test played at Etzer Park since well, almost 4 years to the day, 1999, and that was a 66-34 win over England. Ouch, what a start.
There's Jill, centre of screen, flanked by Bronwyn Roberts, the team manager, to the left, and Lisa, the assistant coach, to the right. They think her absolute speed and that ability to turn things around defensively will really enhance her game at wing attack. Apparently fine performances in Jamaica. Natasha first to say that she was disappointed in her performance in the first test. Nobody else really was, but she's obviously a hard critic. Great start from Sinner Neil. 4 from 5, 80%. Let's push it up from there.
And only 1 attempt so far from South Africa. They've just been starved down this end. Jordan and Jonker have hardly seen it. And there's a real intensity about the Australian defensive effort.
Well, that was the problem for South Africa in test number 1. It wasn't the accuracy. That was impressive. It was just the starvation of possession. And that will be 3 seconds. Well, it was, but it wasn't acknowledged that way. That was held up quite a while by VM. Couldn't connect with a circle player.
So Illich getting the start in the circle defence with Harvey Williams, with Liz Ellis out of this test for personal reasons. And Illich, great stand-in.
And I think Liz's absence highlights the flexibility of this current lineup. Jill McIntosh able to be without any one of these key players, and there is someone to step into that place. Sometimes selections of teams leave you a little heavy with goalkeepers or heavy with front players. This is a very flexible line.
Jonker didn't get a lot of time in the circle in the first test, just shot 2 from 3.
She was dynamic when she came on, though, in that last quarter, combining with Gumedi.
I'm sure we'll see Gumedi across the game, and I'm quite pleased to see Louise Duplessis put in the 2 new players who've travelled so far at short notice, but would have been itching to get on the court, and they're straight into the action. Rather than fly them to Brisbane and then turn them around and fly them straight to Adelaide, almost as soon as their feet hit the ground, I think they did the right thing with them and by starting them.
Yes, and it's a vote of confidence, isn't it?
Australia have gone from 7-2 to 14-2. Jordan.
Second of the match.
Louise Duplessis. Jordan, who's come back from a nasty back injury, amongst other things. She hurt her back in a jet skiing accident. So taken on the role of captaincy. McMahon. Yeah, I think McMahon was first to it in her 50th international, by the way, Sherelle McMahon. As Neil hunts for her 10th and gets it. So the
Sinner
first
Neal
goaler into double figures. Sorry, Annie.
Sinner Neal, 10 from 11 at 91%, has had a brilliant start. Gone on the nerves of the debutante.
You can't expect to find Australian defenders even slightly sleepy on moves like that. Illich threw the hand out. He's never going to reach Jordan or Jonker. Jordan this time. And she's 3 from 4.
Well, we've seen in previous encounters, it's not the accuracy that's lacking for South Africa, it's just the ability to get the ball to their shooters.
Okay, pass or shot. Yep.
Unmistakable New Zealand accent of Bronwyn's spear. Sinner Neal having a ball out there. She knows that under the strategy of Jill McIntosh, she's probably only going to get half a game as Schultz snaffles one. So she's making the most of the opportunity. Chocolate.
Oh, again. Brilliant, fluent movement from the Australian forward line, and usually McMahon involved, and she has really established herself on court with almost a leadership role because she plays so well, it commands respect. Such a complete athlete.
Oh, Neil getting a little plucky. McMahon, well, it might be a little one-sided, but you won't see better skills than this anywhere.
See here the beautiful reach and the athleticism of McMahon, who keeps it alive for Sinner Neal.
Jordan swings it across to them. Harvey got a touch. And contact against Harvey Williams. It's a brave umpire who makes that call in Adelaide against the Australian captain in her only appearance here as the skipper. And plenty of family here to back Kath Harvey Williams today. And oh, what a ball from Schultz. Well, this is an exhibition.
That's the ball Harvey Williams tried to put earlier as Catherine's husband, Corey, looks on in admiration. And Catherine's was just a couple of centimetres too much on it, but Schultz can do the same, and aren't they beautiful to watch them across the court together? What a combination.
A lead of 14. Inside the last minute of the first quarter, I think there might be some serious applause for this Australian team. As Sanders takes another intercept. This is extraordinary netball from the world champions. It's just a thrill, a joy to watch.
And the goal to finish from Sinner Neal. Beautiful ball from Schultz to find Sherelle McMahon. And there the intercept from Rebecca Sanders. South Australians really turning it on for the home crowd.
No goal that last one, but the Australians put through 20, having only missed 3 attempts. And Jill McIntosh would be tough to please if she didn't like that exhibition. I certainly did. A lot to do for South Africa to try and turn this around, but they won't be short of effort in doing so. 23 attempts to 6 in that first quarter. Some changes for South Africa. Julian Meyer is on at goalkeeper. Senecal moves out to wing defence. Marley van der Walt is on at wing attack. If they keep their attacking circle in the same order, Jordan and Jonker. So I just thought we might have seen Gumedi, but perhaps later in the match.
You can't help but think that good feeding skills to Gumedi would do the trick for South Africa, but when she's on, the ball doesn't find her. When she's off, it gets a little bit too busy and they don't get many attempts.
Meyer giving up an early penalty. McMahon duly punishes. Those balloons are all the go here at Tetsa Park on a cool night at a very hot Australian side, as each of these players looks to impress and make sure that Jill McIntosh doesn't leave them out of her thinking for the Australian side named Sunday or Monday for the World Championships.
Sinanil puts another vote in for herself.
It's quite an interesting challenge for coaches, selecting the right players to give you the right number of combinations to go away to a big tournament like that where you have to play a number of matches.
Well, World Championships are quite ruthless. They're demanding, so it isn't about individual ability. It's about what you offer in combination to the team and what flexibility it gives her.
Just saw an interesting moment there, Annie, that might get you to expand a little on the rule. That ball hit Chocolate's foot and she's able to pick up the loose ball, but she couldn't have played at it with her foot.
No, intentional playing at the ball with the foot would be a penalty to the other team.
And the foot didn't move, the ball hit her foot rather than vice versa.
No, the rule hinges on it being deliberate or unintentional.
Sherelle McMahon.
Soft fingers from Sherelle McMahon. Natasha Chocolate having a wonderful match at wing attack. You see there that Chocolate was on her way back. Her stance was more to defend the player, I think.
Oh, Neil skirted around her opponent. And the penalty, well, McMahon knew it was coming against her.
Yeah, she's just a little bit on the latter side getting into that.
Well, another one. She was even closer to getting away with that one, but still not.
When you see the players look across the court like that at the umpire, it's not always as a challenge. It's to check they are in the right out-of-play position, because it's such a touchy area now, and to not be standing out of play fully will see the penalty advanced.
Lovely shot from Jordan, who's on 5 from 6.
But she does have almost a perpetual frown on the face. I guess the frustration of not getting enough ball to put those shots on.
Senecal.
Speed. I think we commented in the first test the Australian outfit, bearing in mind there's another couple of players still in contention when this side is reselected. They look tremendously fit. They look in a very good position to exploit their skills.
Australia took 5 intercepts to none in the first quarter, and they were well spread. Taken another one, and South Africa's got on the board with that category of stat.
Australia packed the middle and it pays dividends. Harvey Williams comes forward for it.
Senecal didn't see that coming.
Well, that ball should not have been able to have been played over then, but Meyer caught on the base with her head turning, just can't match the speed of McMahon. McMahon also with an uncanny ability, as she threads that one through beautifully, to mix the speed up. She'll pull it off a little bit, and then when it gets put down, you don't know where she's going to end up.
She's using the ball to beat the player, and on that one pass, she beat 3 players.
Well, it's hard to explain. You might be able to coach South Africa and say, expect a fast game, but until you're up against it and the speed of the ball out of the hands, the quick delivery, didn't sit at all.
A beautiful drive from Harvey Williams, the shoulder pass, the finish. It was all there to admire and enjoy.
Watch the speed of the hands. That's trademark netball for Australia. Finished off by McMahon.
I reckon if Kath Harvey-Williams had a mask over her face and all you saw was the style of the pass, you'd know instantly it was the Australian skipper.
Yeah, she opens up the shoulder beautifully, loves the single-handed ball. Could put her in a pool and water polo.
Maybe you don't see as much of the shoulder pass as you used to, but you do from Kath Harvey-Williams, and she uses it to great effect.
South Africa.
Good challenge from Peter Scholz.
Ooh, those balloons bursting.
I know.
I think there's a few brains popping out there.
Very static circle there for South Africa.
Van der Walt looking for an option, finds Jordan just dropping into space beyond Illich, and
It's a good move, and exploiting the roll on Illich is a good idea.
just 2 goals in the second quarter for South Africa so far. 33 attempts to 9, and I think the way the Australians have played this again will be a delight for McIntosh as Neil.
Baseline wide open there as McMahon is exploiting it. They're not able to keep her from it.
I think Neil is learning and enjoying this opportunity of playing beside McMahon.
We've commented before, Sina Neal is very good as a playmaker at opening space, and I think she's just learning to read and to understand the speed that McMahon can put out. Yes, not really thinking then as Maya.
Well, she was hurt, I think.
She was hurt, but
she just wanted to leave it behind her, and you can't do that.
No, time had to be called before she disposed of the ball, and just flicking it like that is deemed to have played the ball from the ground.
It's another interesting rule, isn't it? Down she goes.
In possession, on the ground.
She actually has to stand up before getting rid of it.
Yeah, she must be on her feet, or
on
off
her feet
the ground at least,
yeah.
before she passes.
South Australian Premier, Mike Rann, with greatest South Australian netballer, Danny Grant. I'm sure she's telling him all the finer points.
Well, she could be talking about wine. That's one of her passions, I think, too.
Just 6 South African players on the court at the moment because Gumedi, who's coming on, wasn't quite ready in time, I think, was the call.
Yeah, she wasn't on court before the end of that injury timeout. And it's an interesting pattern. Same thing happened in the first test. South Africa using an injury time. This time it was on VM. And they used that to get Gumedi on court. Now, VM has been replaced as she has to because she's the player that called time. It's Van der Walt that has come on to replace her, but Gumedi on its shooter.
Well, Jonker is out at wing attack. I'll tell you what, if they get a goal here with only 6 on the court, there'll be a big cheer. And they've done it. And Gumedi can come on. Well, you won't see that too often. So Jordan out at goal attack. Gumedi's on now, all 192 centimetres of it. That's the kind of ball they need for her. Nice split from her.
Even so, she needs to hold position longer to keep Illich out of the space. A little tougher on the hole, but we're getting there.
McMahon. Sanders. Well, McMahon was well set for that shot, wasn't she? Beautiful positioning, balance.
Well, just 3 misses, considering the workload she puts out, is phenomenal shooting. It's very well shared. Neil with 20 of Australia's goals and McMahon with 19.
Jonker.
Oh, intercept.
That is a great take. Even allowing for a wonderful reach. That took some skill and balance.
You know, I don't think we've seen her at full stretch or full reach yet, and I think that ball was almost for the screen to Jordan, but it's pulled in by Gumedi, hauled in.
McMahon backs in a little closer.
Gumedi's been quick to make impact.
And Louise Duplessis. 6 goals so far in the quarter for South Africa. Contact against Harvey-Williams. Gumedi. Oh, cheeky ball into Jordan.
Oh, they pulled a few out of the bag. The ball to Gumedi had some speed on it that we've not seen in earlier deliveries.
Well, Gumedi and Jordan started the first quarter.
Good quick ball there
for them.
From Jonker. And of course, you wouldn't expect Gumedi to drop it to the floor to the other shooter, but she wants to have a piece of the action.
Offside, wing attack, free pass Australia.
So 41 to 12. Half-time in Brisbane, it was 46-15. So the match is assuming a similar complexion. With 3.5 to go to the long break. Well, Neil did well.
Nice hold from Cotz's screens. McMahon out from rebounding.
Boy, there was something on that pass from Senecal.
Yep. Where are we at?
Oh, McMahon just helps herself. And Neil, oh, maybe should have taken the shot, and she'll think so now herself.
Yeah, she should have, but you knew she was going to look for the offload.
Might have a go this time. Takes her own rebound. Maya was dancing around in front of her. Sorry, she says, sticks the tongue out. She has a very likeable disposition on court, said Neil.
Now, I know we can expect Jill to make changes, but I personally will feel a little robbed if I don't see Harvey Williams and Sanders finish the whole game.
Vantage break, wing defense.
Jordan, Jonker, Van der Walt. A quick left hand of Harvey Williams just to deny that last pass.
Van der Welt sat a little too long on that feed. It was just a moment earlier it was open to the baseline to Gometti. Taken a different pathway, but same result that they wanted. Gometti's enjoying it.
Yeah, she's 3 from 3. Neil just checks the heels.
Contact, goal attack. South Africa penalty. Okay, where you are.
And that is all for this second quarter and for half-time. And it's a healthy lead for Australia, 43-13, after it was 46.
Vantage break, wing attack.
Underway, third quarter. And plenty of changes to bring you as Australia sits on a 30-goal lead. Illich has got herself tangled up. But Broadbent is on at wing defence. Richardson at centre. Altschwager and Cox come on as a new shooting combination, replacing Neil and McMahon. And Sanders moves to wing attack. Liam is back at wing defence for South Africa. And
Vantage obstruction, wing.
Altschwager playing for the Swifts, but of course a very proud South Australian. Sanders made a few, well, questionable remarks about the Thunderbirds recently, but I think it was all just good journalistic grist for the mill. And I think there's no damage done to the relationship between Altschwager and other South Australians. Let's focus here on the changes that Jill McIntosh has made, and pretty much expected, Annie, that there'd be, you know, half a game given to some players.
Vantage obstruction.
Yes, I think the highlight was mixing the Debs with the experience in the first half of the game. What's evident in this is some already established combinations. Even though Janie hasn't had much time in the Australian lineup, she's very used to playing with Catherine. And of course, when you put Richardson back with Sanders, that's become quite established in the Australian line. So,
Altschwager to Cox.
Solid combinations. I guess Ali Broadbent out at wing defence is not common, but has happened before. So that's new territory for her.
And the Australians just a little loose as they were at the start of the third quarter in Brisbane. You make these changes, they don't settle in immediately. You can't expect them to. And there's been one or two indifferent options exercised by the Aussies. Can we put it like that? Kath Cox in the first test shot 24 from 27 at 89%. And Altschwager building into her international career. Got the skills and the height to be anything over the coming years, but Illich, Harvey Williams, Richardson on to Sanders.
Decides to do a Gometti offload, but in the air. Janie a little down in her shooting stats in the first test. She came from the court at 67%. She sits much higher than that in National League. So she'll, as we said with Sin and Neil, she'll want to work on that and really nudge it up to make a case for herself.
Plenty of people would have wanted to see a full game from Harvey Williams and Sanders, and just how that fits into the the strategy of Jill McIntosh is another issue, but the fact that Liz Ellis isn't here makes it a little easier for Jill McIntosh to kind of give in to that sort of emotional wish of the...
Well, I think we all know Jill doesn't usually give in to emotional wishes, or I don't mean it harshly, but whims of players. We saw Vicky Wilson not to reach 100 caps for Australia at the last World Championships, and that probably could have been conceded by 1/4 of an extra game. And Jill's attitude was, no, I'm here to play the lineup and develop it for the win. But it is great to see both Harvey Williams and Sanders still on court and in such screaming form.
Vandervolt over the top.
Oh. Well, she wasn't there, but it was valiant in the trying to get there.
Jordan. Yeah, good take from Gometti. She drew the contact from Harvey Williams. It's not just the height you're dealing with, it's the reach.
Well, I think her hands are better. At Commonwealth Games, they let her down a little. Here's a better ball to her. It wasn't brilliantly placed, but it had enough. Illich tries to separate it from Gometti, but without luck.
Richardson swings it over to Sanders.
Remembering Gometti was the leading goal scorer at Commonwealth Games last year, so when given the ball, she's a fearsome opponent. And that comes when you've changed the lineup a lot. VM, thinking that Maya was at goal defence, put the ball onto the centre third and then realised she couldn't go past the transverse line.
Obstruction against VM. Could nearly have been contact.
I think whilst Australia has had changes, they've been with more structure than South Africa. South Africa's positional changes have been wholesale and chopped and changed. It's difficult for a team to build up momentum and cohesion that way.
Broadbent a little physical on the challenge. Looking at Broadbent at wing defence, she's really a goal defence probably by preference. What you've got in this Australian squad at the moment is, say, 2.5 wing defences and 1.5 wing attacks. I mean, we're trying to turn Natasha Chocolate into one. Sanders is a very good wing attack when asked to play that. It is probably a better centre. And this is the slight imbalance that Jill McIntosh is working on, but thinks she's got the ingredients to get it just right by the Worlds.
Yes, I think she has a lot of faith in the potential that exists in Chocolate. As we mentioned, she loves the speed that Natasha puts out. And as you mentioned in the first quarter, loves the fact that she can, as a front player, perhaps turn the ball over rather than leaving it to the work of the defenders.
3-second call against Vandervolt.
Remembering Nick Richardson is no slouch at wing defence either.
Sanders. Sanders, of course, and importantly, is the name above Winnie the Pooh's house. I don't know why that thought came to me. It was just, revisiting my childhood. And
you and a million other people don't know why that came to you. We're all wondering.
Even my mother, who read me Winnie the Pooh, I must say.
Lovely mother she is. She made me a cheese knife.
There you go. It's not easy to do.
No, it's beautiful too.
Vandervolt in dispute there with Illich. And South African possession, 51-15. The Australians working on keeping South Africa under 10 goals in any quarter. They managed it in the first test, 8, 7, 8 and 8 were the 4-quarter breakdowns of South Africa's contribution. Cox
7 from 7. So as she started in the first test in Brisbane, she's phenomenal in goals at the moment and looks very relaxed sitting back at goal shooter while the work's being done ahead of her. I think Catherine really comfortable now putting out solid netball across the whole duration. Well, she's really matured as a player.
Stuck for an option, that's a good one when you've got a player with her height and reach.
Well, the pass prior to that was poorly put, as was Gometti's hold, but that one much better. She still needs to stick her ground rather than retreat position with the defender because it pushes her a little off the spot she wants.
Oh, great presence of mind from Sanders to leave that for Cox. She just knew the Australian goaler was behind her. I wondered how she could.
Maybe Cox whispered, I'll shoot this one, thanks.
Well, Schwager without the name on the back on this uniform. And also Senegal for South Africa, who's arrived late. Is playing without name on her uniform as well.
All those things still to be fine-tuned before the two teams hit Jamaican soil. Remembering this is a lead-up, and that was an attempt to hold more strongly, but I actually think it was a causing contact by Gamedi.
Yeah.
Hasn't quite got that mastered.
Oh, she nearly lost her footing there on the advertising hoarding. But that would not be a good result. You don't want to get injured without even being on the court.
It doesn't make a glamour story for the flight home, does it?
It does not. And 4 goals in nearly 9 minutes of play for South Africa, but Australia's only been held only to 10.
That was the case in the third quarter in Brisbane, but it was put down to having so many rookies on court at the same time in an unlikely combination, or an uncommon, I should say, combination, one they're not used to.
South Africa get a couple of answered goals.
Beautiful quick release from Sanders, who then pulls the play right to the far side of the court to open things up for the shooters.
Yeah, Cox and Olschwager were nearly in the same spot, but it was still a good delivery for Cox on the baseline.
Olschwager probably misreading her run then. She put the ball across, but should have realised Cox had post and baseline.
54-18.
Oh, little fast break from Gamedi. She thought they're expecting the hold. I'll just do something different.
Well, that's all right. That's a ratio of 3-1. The Australians are scoring at. Not now. As Gamedi pops in another. 6th of the quarter. Cox. And one off the ball against Olschwager.
Come across.
Bronwyn Spear sets the players. Coxa. Schwager, great effort.
Okay.
Heather Gledall and Bronwyn Spear. We had the 2 Kiwi umpires in Brisbane. Do you see any difference in interpretation or style from Heather, Annie? I mean,
I'm pleased to
really.
say... Oh, stop it. I'm pleased to say I've barely noticed them. You asked me the question and answered it.
Right.
Yeah, well, you and I are always commenting that it's nice when you don't notice them, because inevitably it means they've done a great job and they've been unobtrusive and the players have shone. And I find that really with all 3 that are working this series, that I'm acknowledging the play and barely thinking about decisions, and that's fantastic. That's one of my biggest compliments to an umpire.
Contest was allowed in Brisbane. The penalty count was reasonably low. We queried a couple of calls, but we only do that for sport.
I think, too, the manner is nice from these 3 umpires. They seem to have a rapport with the players. It doesn't involve, you know, chastisement or severity. It's just a lovely manner.
Sanders. Schwager with the shot, and it's a good one.
Well, Janie needs to become more involved. She's put up 4 from 6 since coming on at half-time, but at 67%, that certainly needs to lift, or she'd like her to.
That's
but
exactly what it was in Brisbane, actually. 14 from 21 across the game for Olschwager at 67.
Well, all of the Australian shooters would want to be shooting up in the 80s. They would know that that is what's hoped for at international level. Oh, too much on it.
She's so tall.
So tall and unstretched. I still don't think I've seen her take a ball where everything was absolutely stretched to the max. That would be intimidating.
High performance manager for Australia, Janet Bothwell, who is liaising with the South African, says that Cindy Gamedi also has a good leap when she chooses to use it.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a lot of work done on, number 1, positioning, then holding it, and then knowing when to make the move at the ball. But let's not tell them too much before Jamaica. Let's just keep that a secret.
Cox. Oh, that's a way downtown. That's all string. Great pass. She acknowledges as much. And Cox has not missed.
And she looks quite understated on court, but I think really enjoying how solid her performances have been. Catherine Cox is really making a claim for that position. Gumedi 11 from 12 has certainly had impact.
Sanders down and almost never winces when she takes a tumble. She did that time, up a little slower than usual. Adelaide pathologist.
Oh, first miss of the match for Catherine Cox. Sanders
that didn't look quite too nice on the replay, actually. I thought the foot might have been stuck out.
There has been a little bit of niggle between VM and Sanders, or from VM. Perhaps frustration at trying to stop an unstoppable. But yeah, that was off the line and just off the play. Better hold, strong work from Gumedi, and it challenges Ilic. He's had to see some better deliveries go to Gumedi, and Gumedi reward them with some great shooting. 12 from 13 for the towering South African goal shooter.
Touch over a minute left, third quarter, and Australia with 15 goals, and South Africa with 10 in this quarter, so that's a step up for them.
Well, it's their best quarter of the series to date.
And they're about to build on it again as Gumedi makes it 13 from 14. Probably enjoying not having to deal with Liz Ellis. That's not to say Janine Ilic isn't putting out a good performance, but she's giving away about 10 centimetres in height.
Jordan, I think, now wishing she'd offloaded.
Williams to Broadbent. And better effort in defence also from South Africa, and Richardson throws one away. Jill McIntosh always looking for the perfect game. Not quite getting it here in the third quarter from Australia. And that is three-quarter time. It's a bit untidy. No changes to the final quarter of the second test. Cox looking for Altschwager. Good contest from Kotzer.
Well, if Cox put Altschwager under pressure, then it wasn't probably the best weighted ball.
Gee, there's some height in that circle, isn't there, with Cox, Altschwager, Kotzer, and Julian Meyer.
We're not used to seeing players match Altschwager and Cox at domestic level. Nor tower over Janine Ilic at the other end of the court, as does Cindy Gumedi. Sanders neatly off the line.
So Australia only won that third quarter 15-11. Sure, some fairly strong words were said by Jill Mack at the three-quarter time.
What will be interesting is whether the South African combination can sustain that effort through this quarter and whether it's carried into the final test in Perth.
Broadbent stuck a toe over the line, but I don't think any player was in a position to run down the loose ball in any event. Meyer to Kotzer. Looking for VM. Richardson there. And that's the kind of contest I like to see the umpires let happen. I mean, I think that was a 50-50 ball.
Until Richardson took possession, because then VM quite deliberately threw the arms up and blocked, and it was an undisciplined play, the final action. But yes, the first phase of it, absolutely. But VM just showing a little bit of a lack of discipline at times.
Does not like to be beaten. I understand that, but
I guess that's why they're out on international court, none of them. It's half how you select them, isn't it?
VM with the pass. Jonker. Van der Vault. Oh, Gumedi had to have the hands up quickly to take that one.
Yeah, just some flashes of speed on the delivery starting to come from South Africa that we've not seen earlier. That was nice.
And Gumedi has now scored 15 from 16, and there have been 32 attempts for South Africa, so she's had a good return herself. Jordan is 10 from 15.
I was about to say Gumedi's the most accurate on court, but Jonker's got 1 from 1.
Yeah, where you are.
Before departing to the wing.
And Cox not far behind on 11 from 12. Also the one miss, not as many attempts though.
See, there's always a story in the statistics. You should never just say them. There's always a bit more wrapped around.
Oh, well, that's... Ilic might think that was a tough call, but you wouldn't know it looking at her. She's just on with the job. And Broadbent on to Richardson. No, over ahead. Jordan, and a bit of crisp play from the South Africans before it comes off an Australian hand.
And South Africa try the faster. Oh, that's Ilic up, but the height of Cindy Gomet taking its toll.
Well, they used to have a similar problem, world defenders, with the South African goaler Irene van Dijk, and now with New Zealand, of course. And you know, the South Africans have got a similar problem to pose defenders with Cindy Gomet. Australia putting on a burst here of 6 goals. The final score in Brisbane was 73-31. Not yet halfway through the last quarter. And this putting the foot down has got Australia within range of their first test total. And I'm sure improvement was asked for.
Swisher, after stuttering on the last couple, Olschwager pulls up the perfect shot. It's just getting a little ugly in the defence circle for South Africa. And perhaps born out of frustration.
Broadbent. Harvey Williams onto Ilic.
Sets up the fast break play.
That lateral pass from Cox maybe not quite right. There was too much traffic between her and Richardson. Unfortunate it came off South African hands. Cox.
Oh, that's a confident shot from Catherine Cox. She just made the decision early, waited up. It was a long-range shot. She's only had the 2 misses. She's at 88%.
We made the comment, Annie, that at this level, Catherine Cox is a better player in 2003 than she was 2 years ago. She has really grown into this level.
Yeah, I think maturity as a player. I don't mean that in any mental sense as a person, but just on court, she's stringed together her better plays for greater periods. And I think we're now seeing full game performances from her.
The landed foot had some fun staying on the ground.
That was a well-placed ball. Not the balance underneath it. It was a lovely pirouette.
Liam flies out of court and flies back in. Olschwager holds well, drifts away from Kotzer and converts. This is a big quarter for the Australians. They've scored 13 in, well, better than even time, of course.
A lovely turn in the air from Cindy Gomet, who nails the shot.
Broadbent, Richardson. So Australia, a 20-goal first quarter and 23 in the second. It dried up a little in the third with the further 15. And a good third quarter from South Africa. Their best of the series so far. But Australians have been a bit tougher on them. Five to go, and 73-29. There'll be some people in the room not quite sure how long there is to go, because the clock on the scoreboard here, it's got 4 faces on it, and 2 of the clocks are 2 minutes disparity between them. 6:40 and 4:40. There's a 6:40 there, and there's another one that says 4:40.
Well, the crowd behind you and I are going to feel cheated, because the game will stop and they'll need another few minutes to play.
Yeah. So Australia has reached their first test total and not quite past it. Olschwager will make sure they are, though. That's good stretch. Fingertip control. Cox and Olschwager backing up the good work of Neil and McMahon. It's a more consistent effort across the 4 goalers in this second test, Annie.
Yes, and that'll please John McIntosh. Particularly, I think, in this second test at the level of improvement from the debutantes. They really have slotted in nicely, being mixed with the more experienced players. Sinanil left of screen, Sherelle McMahon, they were the combination for the first half, and some brilliant results there. So Jill McIntosh with plenty of options, and as we always say, some lovely headaches.
Cox leaves it for Sanders. At times, this Australian front four is just dissecting this South African defence. They are too quick, too slick.
Well, I think they're finishing the game, and of course it's with a different combination, but they're finishing the game as they started it. Australia was razzle-dazzle to start, just open them up, and they're doing the same in the close of the match. So just a wonderful display of netball for this Adelaide crowd.
Can I just say that Statman Todd Miller gave the step call with his hands even before it was made by the umpire. That's how good he is, folks. That's why we pay him $2.50 an hour. Van der Walt. And Gumedi. Under 3 to go. Sorry, Annie.
Gumedi puts up her 19th shot from 22, so she's at 86%. Oh, Cox home alone, hauls it in nicely.
And it looks like both teams are going to score more than they did in the first test. So South Africa had 31. But, Australians have kept them under 10 so far.
Isn't it great that for the margin, the game has lacked no intensity? So they're finishing the game as if there was 1 or 2 goals in it, and that's a credit to both teams.
Louise Duplessis and Dudu Masane, the coach and assistant coach. They could not be more accommodating. They're a lovely touring party to have. And Mashoga, Moabi, Richardson.
That bounce had something on it.
That was a throw from first to second, I think. Former softballer. And bronze medalist too, isn't he, in Atlanta? Gumedi. And they too have now eclipsed their first test total. 46 is the margin, and it was 42 in Brisbane. Altschwager. There is some good netball being played by both teams.
Meyer going on with it just a little too long. Didn't need the last physical challenge.
Australia hunting for 80 as time enough. With still a minute. Gumedi doesn't muck about. Pops it through for another, and she's 21 from 24.
And happy. She's having a great time. She's really enjoying the match.
Oh, Altschwager receives one on the sixpence from Harvey Williams, and will ultimately be rewarded. Beam over to Jordan, and they're playing a bit of razzle-dazzle themselves, the South Africans. Gumedi, nice ball between Illich and Harvey Williams. Cox, and it's off a foot. And nearly a short pass, Van der Walt to Meyer. Beam feeds it over to Jordan. And that is the end of a very enjoyable, very skillful match. And Kath Harvey-Williams, her husband Corey there, he knows he's seen something memorable. I'm sure that